You ever just stare at your dog chasing its own tail and wonder what's going on in that beautiful, empty head? We humans have built entire civilizations around carefully cultivating ways to unwind, relax, and generally feel a bit different. But it turns out we're late to the party. The animal kingdom has been finding its own weird, wild ways to check out for millennia. Today, we're looking at animals that love being high. Let's get right into it. Number 10, the neighborhood pusher. You've seen the evidence. One minute your cat is a sophisticated predator, a tiny lion surveying its domain from the top of the bookshelf. The next minute you sprinkle a bit of dusty green stuff on the floor and it transforms into a deranged, drooling, furry mess. We're talking, of course, about catnip. The active ingredient here is a chemical called nepetalactone. When your cat sniffs this stuff, the molecules bind to receptors inside its nasal cavity, which then send a signal to the brain. Specifically, it lights up the olfactory bulb, the amygdala, and the hypothalamus, the parts that control emotion and behavior. The current theory is that nepetalactone is basically mimicking the effect of a feline happiness pheromone. It's a chemical trick, a neurological hack delivered by a humble plant in the mint family. The result is about 10 to 15 minutes of pure, unadulterated kitty chaos. They'll roll around, rub their faces on it, drool, meow at nothing, and chase invisible mice across the living room. Then just as suddenly the effect wears off and they enter a refractory period, where the catnip won't work on them for an hour or two. They'll just look at you completely sober as if to say, "We shall never speak of this again." It's a temporary state of euphoria for them and a permanent source of blackmail material for you. Basically, your cat is voluntarily having its brain hijacked by a plant for a quarter of an hour. All hail the minty green master. Number 9, the bad pilots. It's a sad but common sight, a bird accidentally flying into a window. You might chalk it up to a simple miscalculation, a trick of the light, but sometimes the reason is a little more scandalous. For some birds, like cedar waxwings, their little bird brains are absolutely blitzed. This happens most often in the late winter and early spring. Berries that have been hanging on branches, like those from the rowan tree or hawthorn, start to ferment as the weather gets a bit warmer. The natural sugars inside begin to convert into ethanol. To a hungry bird, a berry is a berry. They don't have tiny breathalyzers to check the alcohol content, so they just start feasting on these naturally boozy snacks. After gorging themselves on a few dozen of these fermented fruits, the birds get tipsy. Their coordination goes right out the window. Their flight patterns become erratic and clumsy, they have trouble landing, and sometimes they just fall right off their perch. Animal rescue centers occasionally have to take in entire flocks of birds to let them sober up in a safe environment, like a tiny, feathered drunk tank. It's less of a majestic flight and more of an uncoordinated stumble through the air, occasionally punctuated by a loud thunk against a suburban kitchen window. Nature's little air traffic control nightmare. Number 8, Tasmanian crop circles. Imagine you're a farmer in Tasmania. You've got a big, beautiful field of poppies you're growing legally for the pharmaceutical industry. One morning, you go out to check your crops and find crop circles, not the intricate geometric kind you see in movies, but weird, loopy, nonsensical patterns carved through your field. Are aliens visiting Tasmania? Nope. Your farm has a wallaby problem, specifically a very, very relaxed wallaby problem. It turns out, wallabies absolutely love to get into these poppy fields, eat the opium-rich heads of the flowers, and then get completely zonked. According to farmers and local officials, the wallabies will then hop around in circles, completely disoriented, trampling the crops in bizarre patterns until they eventually just pass out. This isn't just a one-off thing, it's a known agricultural nuisance. The poppies contain alkaloids like morphine, which have a powerful sedative and euphoric effect. The wallabies are essentially wandering into an all-you-can-eat buffet of bliss. While it might sound funny, it's a genuine headache for the farmers who rely on those crops. Imagine trying to explain to your insurance agent that your losses weren't caused by weather or pests, but by stoned marsupials doing interpretive dance until they needed a nap. Good luck with that claim. Number 7, the desperate climbers. Bighorn sheep are known for being majestic, rugged animals that can scale mountainsides that would make a professional rock climber sweat. You'd assume they do this for the best grazing spots or to escape predators, and you'd be right. But sometimes they are risking life and limb for something else entirely, a very specific and very weird lichen. In certain parts of the Canadian Rockies, there's a psychoactive lichen that grows in hard-to-reach places. It has intoxicating properties and the local bighorn sheep are obsessed with it. This isn't just a casual snack they happen upon. They will go to extraordinary lengths to find and scrape this stuff off the rocks with their teeth. We're talking about traversing treacherous cliffs and shimmying along narrow ledges, all for a little taste of some funky fungus. Once they get their fix, their behavior becomes noticeably off. They act strange, a little dazed, and less aware of their surroundings. Scientists who have observed this believe the sheep are actively seeking out the narcotic effects. Think about that for a second. This animal is performing death-defying feats of mountaineering not for survival but because it wants to feel fuzzy. It's like climbing Mount Everest just because someone told you there's a really good donut shop at the summit. You have to respect the dedication. Number 6. The Psychedelic Predator. Jaguars are apex predators. They're 300 pounds of silent, muscle-bound killing machine. They move through the Amazon rainforest with a terrifying grace that has made them legendary. So what do you think a creature like this does in its downtime? Sharpen its claws, take naps? Well, sometimes it chews on a special vine to, for lack of a better term, trip its face off. Indigenous people of the Amazon have long observed jaguars seeking out and gnawing on the bark of the yage vine, also known as Banisteriopsis caapi. This plant contains psychoactive compounds that can induce powerful visions and altered states of consciousness. After chewing the vine, the jaguar's behavior changes dramatically. They'll roll on the ground, almost like a house cat with catnip, but the effect seems far more intense and profound. Their eyes glaze over, they seem to enter a trance-like state, and some accounts suggest their hunting senses become incredibly heightened afterward. The big question is, why are they doing it for fun? Is it a form of self-medication to purge internal parasites, as some researchers theorize, or is something else going on we don't really know? But what we do know is that deep in the jungle, the most powerful predator on the continent is occasionally taking a break from the food chain to go on a spiritual journey. It really puts your own weekend plans into perspective, doesn't it? Number 5. The Millipede Masseuse. Lemurs are already pretty strange creatures with their giant eyes and bizarre social structures, but the black lemurs of Madagascar take strange to a whole new level. They have discovered that giant millipedes are basically a walking, multi-legged pharmacy and party favor all rolled into one. Here's how it works. These millipedes, when threatened, secrete a defensive toxin that contains cyanide compounds. It's a pretty effective way to tell predators, "Do not eat me, I am made of poison." But the lemurs figured out a loophole. They will gently pick up a millipede and carefully bite or aggravate it, just enough to make it ooze its toxins but not enough to actually eat it. They then rub this toxic goo all over their fur. Why? Because it's an incredibly effective insect repellent protecting them from malaria-carrying mosquitoes. But that's not the only effect. The toxins are also intoxicating. After anointing themselves with millipede juice, the lemurs enter a visibly euphoric, dazed state. They drool, their eyes glaze over, and they look completely blissed out. They have effectively found a way to get high and apply bug spray in a single, disgusting step. It's the most efficient and most bizarre form of self-care in the entire animal kingdom. They are literally massaging a poisonous bug for both health benefits and a good time. Don't try this at home. Number 4. Rudolph's Little Secret. You've probably heard the stories about Santa's flying reindeer. You just assumed it was magic. But what if it was mushrooms, specifically the iconic red and white-capped Amanita muscaria mushroom? This is the quintessential fairytale toadstool, and it also happens to be a potent hallucinogen that reindeer in Siberia absolutely love to eat. Siberian shamans have used these mushrooms in rituals for centuries, and a lot of their early knowledge likely came from watching the local reindeer. During the harsh winter months, these mushrooms are a rare treat poking through the snow. After eating them, the reindeer behave in a way that can only be described as profoundly wonky. They stumble around, twitch their heads, make strange noises, and generally act like they're seeing things that aren't there. Sound familiar? But here's where it gets even weirder. The psychoactive compounds in the mushroom pass through the digestive system largely intact. This means a reindeer's urine contains the magic. Other reindeer, and historically the shamans themselves, would drink the urine to experience a second-hand, more filtered version of the trip. Yes, you heard that right. It's the original, all-natural recycling program from heck. So, the next time you see decorations of flying reindeer, just remember the theory that the legend might have originated with Siberian tribesmen watching their entire herd get completely blasted on fungi and stumbling across the tundra. It's a Christmas miracle. Number 3, the crazy weed. Most of the entries on this list are about animals having a bit of harmless, goofy fun. This one is different. This is about a full-blown, life-ruining addiction, courtesy of a plant aptly named locoweed. Found in North America, locoweed is a group of plants that horses, cattle, and sheep can become hopelessly addicted to. The plants contain a toxic alkaloid called swainsinine. When an animal eats it, this chemical messes with its cell's ability to process sugars, leading to a buildup of toxins that causes severe neurological damage. The initial effect is a sort of intoxicated stupor, which is what gets them hooked. But it quickly goes downhill. Animals addicted to locoweed become listless and unpredictable. They'll wander off from the herd, stare at nothing for hours, bob their heads, and walk with a strange, exaggerated gait. They lose weight because they stop eating anything else, seeking out only the locoweed they now crave. There's no cure, and the brain damage is permanent. It's one of the biggest toxic plant problems for ranchers who watch their valuable livestock slowly lose their minds. Locoweed is basically nature's cruelest bait-and-switch, a plant that offers a temporary buzz and then slowly, methodically, repossesses your entire nervous system. Number 2, Pufferfish Pass. Dolphins are some of the smartest animals on the planet. They have complex social lives, use tools, and communicate in sophisticated ways. And apparently they also use their big brains to solve a problem we can all relate to: boredom. Their solution? Gently bullying a pufferfish. Filmmakers captured this incredible behavior in a documentary. A group of young dolphins was seen carefully nudging a pufferfish between them, passing it from one to the other with their snouts. They were extremely gentle, almost like they were trying not to hurt it. The pufferfish, as a defense mechanism, releases a small amount of a powerful neurotoxin called tetrodotoxin. In high doses, this stuff is famously lethal, but in tiny, controlled microdoses it appears to have a narcotic effect. After a few minutes of Pufferfish Pass, the dolphins' behavior changed. They entered a trance-like state, floating just below the surface and appearing mesmerized by their own reflections. They were, for all intents and purposes, using the fish to get high and then letting it go, unharmed. It's one of the most remarkable examples of an animal deliberately and socially using a natural substance for recreation. It's the ocean's equivalent of a bunch of smart, bored teenagers finding a bizarre loophole in the laws of toxicology just to feel a little weird for an afternoon. And number 1, the great elephant myth. This is the story you've all heard. It's the undisputed heavyweight champion of intoxicated animal tailies. Deep in the African savanna, elephants gather around the marula tree, gorging themselves on the fallen, fermented fruit until they are hilariously, stupendously drunk. We've seen it in documentaries, we've seen it referenced in movies. The image of a multi-ton pachyderm stumbling around, leaning on trees for support, is a classic. It's charming, it's funny, and according to scientists, it's almost certainly not true. Sorry to be a buzzkill, but let's look at the math. A team of biologists at the University of Bristol did the calculations, and the numbers just don't add up. For an elephant to get even mildly tipsy, it would have to consume an enormous quantity of fermented marula fruit at an impossible speed. Marula fruit only has an alcohol content of about 3%. An elephant would need to eat roughly 400% of its normal daily food intake in one go to feel the effects. Their massive bodies and efficient digestive systems would process the alcohol long before it could ever accumulate enough to cause intoxication. So what's really going on in those videos of wobbly elephants? The truth might be even weirder. One prevailing theory points not to the fruit but to the bark of the marula tree, which is often home to the pupae of a specific type of beetle. These beetle pupae contain a toxin that has been used by local sand people for generations to poison their arrow tips. It's possible the elephants are eating the bark and getting a completely different kind of buzz from these poisonous bugs. So the most famous story of animals getting drunk on alcohol is probably a case of mistaken identity. They're not drunk, they're high on beetle juice. Nature, you never fail to be gloriously disgusting. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.